G'day YouTube, Part-2, background briefing, alt-right and Nazis in Australia.
Reads, sad to see such a sexist and racist like Georgie Carey exists in Mossman Park and Perth. Should be ashamed of her anti-male, anti-white comments.
Did you know that he and Andrew were working together?
No, I didn't know until the election night, and it was a bit of a surprise to me because I'd always been amicable, I suppose, with Radomir, but then to sort of, I guess, see him with Andrew, it was sort of like, oh, okay, I see.
In the end, Georgie was elected to council, and Andrew Wilson wasn't.
After the election night, it was radio silence. So heard nothing from him. No one had sort of, I suppose, seen him around the community. He wasn't campaigning for the next election. Yeah, nothing since.
But Andrew Wilson and Radomir Kobryn-Coletti were only just launching their political careers.
Australia needs a revolution on how we think.
In early 2017, some weird Clive Palmer-related content started appearing online. This funky clip is called Clive Wave. It has retro graphics, Australian nostalgia references, and choice Palmer soundbites.
We all know that all those papers are controlled by Rupert Murdoch.
It was posted to Clive Palmer's own Facebook page, just as he was preparing a return to federal politics.
Right across this nation, the people of this country are rising up. They're sick of being ignored. They're sick of seeing boring politicians on TV, and they're going to make a change.
The production company behind this video is called R&Co. It's owned by Radomir Kobryn-Coletti, and for 3 weeks in 2017, Radomir worked in Clive Palmer's office producing online content. Another Palmer-related clip, You Can't Disarm the Palm, was uploaded by Andrew Wilson's meme page, Memes for the Urban Gentleman, and later shared by Clive Palmer's official page. It shows that around the same time as Andrew Wilson was running for council, he and Radomir were producing content for Clive and honing their skills in political memes. But then in late 2017, something strange happened to the content being posted to Clive Palmer's pages. Posts appear depicting Palmer in a Nazi uniform, gassing a room full of his political opponents, while other users compete to post the most offensive Hitler-related memes. Within a few months, both pages descend into full-blown alt-right shitposting. I've seen some chats between nationalists where Andrew Wilson boasts that he worked for Clive Palmer during this time, and that he was behind the anti-Semitic memes. A spokesman for Clive Palmer's United Australia Party told me that they don't have any record of anyone called Andrew Wilson who worked for Mr. Palmer. They also said that Mr. Palmer does not endorse the anti-Semitic memes on his pages. The spokesman told me that Radomir Kobryn-Coletti left the team because, quote, his views were extreme, so his contract wasn't extended. I approached Radomir for an interview, but he declined. 2017 was shaping up as a big year for the alt-right in Australia, and in June, this telling manifesto appeared in a closed Australian fascist Facebook group called The New Guard.
Hey guys, I'll be making a video later today detailing some of the plans we have for this movement. Ideas so far: short-term, university clubs, meetups, and creating visual propaganda. Medium-term, setting up a headquarters, doing charity work, doing more political work. Long-term, setting up businesses and employing our own guys, buying houses and creating our own communities, and electing people in local, state and federal parliament.
The group's members alternated between sharing white supremacist memes and grand plans of political infiltration. I got access to the group and last year exposed an attempt by some of its members to join the New South Wales Young Nationals and change their policy agenda from within. In eerily similar circumstances to the failed Club Nation takeover, the group even managed to get 2 of their own elected to the New South Wales Young Nationals executive before being uncovered. As a result of that story, 22 members of the New South Wales Young Nationals were kicked out and banned from the party for life.
These people have a simple choice. If they want to project the politics of racism and hate, they need to leave the party.
Now, with the benefit of hindsight, we can see those members of the New Guard were riding a wave of momentum that in 2017 was growing all over the world. In August that year, alt-right demonstrators rallied on the streets of Charlottesville, Virginia, for what was dubbed Unite the Right. The rally turned deadly when a neo-Nazi drove his car into a crowd of counter-demonstrators, killing a 32-year-old woman and injuring others. At the same time, in Europe, white nationalists were gaining mainstream support. A Bloomberg analysis of election results across 22 European countries that year showed populist radical right parties had their best results in 30 years. In the middle of that year's northern summer, that support turned into real-world action when a pan-European white nationalist group called Generation Identity launched an anti-refugee mission in the Mediterranean. They called it Defend Europe, and they found support from Canadian alt-right vlogger Lauren Southern.
Okay, can you hear me, everyone? I'm gonna wait for a few people to show up. Nervous.
This is Lauren Southern speaking on a live stream video from a boat somewhere on the Mediterranean Sea.
Quick, get in front, get in front.
Raise the flag. Raise the
Raise
flag.
the flag.
Raise the flag.
She and 3 members of Generation Identity light flares and move their boat directly into the path of another boat carrying asylum seekers.
No more! No more! Illegal immigration! No more! No more! Illegal immigration! No more! No more! Illegal immigration! Get in front! Get in front! Illegal immigration! No more!
We are seeing these events that are kind of coalescing and helping a movement gain strength.
Peter Simi is an associate professor at Chapman University in California, and he studied far-right extremism for more than 20 years. He says 2017 was a tipping point for the alt-right in connecting groups across the world.
Because these individuals are tied together not only within particular countries, but also across boundaries, across national boundaries. Now they're actually gaining strength, they're gaining a foothold.
And today, those ideas have entered the mainstream.
And at least a segment of the mainstream is radicalizing, and people who don't consider themselves to be white supremacists, far-right extremists, they would never use those terms to describe themselves. They're not interested in getting involved in these kind of groups, but they are very much supportive of the idea that immigration is an invasion, that immigrants are an infestation. So they're supporting dehumanizing ideas, they're supporting language and rhetoric that's very much in the direction of this movement.
White supremacists have tried for years to infiltrate institutions and influence them from within. In the US, the FBI has repeatedly raised concerns about white extremists having a historical interest in infiltrating law enforcement communities or recruiting law enforcement personnel.
Identity Europa helped organize last year's Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville.
Leaked chat logs have also revealed the plans of a US white nationalist group called Identity Europa to infiltrate the Republican Party.
The goal for now, at least politically, is to get identitarians into positions of power in the GOP covertly.
Here in Australia, we've had the failed Club Nation takeover and the New Guard's push into the New South Wales Young Nationals. And with an Australian federal election just around the corner, Peter Simi warns we're more vulnerable now than ever.
This is also a moment now where electoral politics seem more ripe for the picking than I think, certainly in any time in recent decades, where this is a moment, the conditions are such that far-right extremists really feel like institutional politics provides them an avenue and in a way that it probably didn't quite in years past.
Fraser Anning made it to Parliament at the end of that pivotal year, in November 2017. But it was chance that got him there, not popularity. And by the time he gave his maiden speech, he'd already quit One Nation, declared himself an independent senator, and then joined Katter's Australia Party.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm pleased to advise this is my first speech.
His speech praised the days of a whites-only immigration policy and pushed ethno-nationalism and fears of white replacement.
Ethno-cultural diversity, which is known to undermine social cohesion, has been allowed to rise to dangerous levels in many suburbs. It has allowed the cultural conquest of our nation.
The senator's speech crashed through acceptable discourse. At one stage, he even used a Nazi euphemism for genocide.
The final solution to the immigration problem, of course, is a popular vote.
He's since said that was a coincidence. But the man who reportedly wrote the speech is accused of being fascinated with Nazi Germany and is right now on leave from the Federal Department of Home Affairs. His name is Richard Howard, and he's denied writing the speech or holding extremist views. But whoever wrote it, the Australian alt-right was listening. A burgeoning Australian alt-right media scene began spruiking Senator Anning online, and an unofficial Fraser Anning supporters group soon formed on Facebook. Its membership list was a who's who of the Australian scene, including members of the New Guard, abhorrent Australian memes, former New South Wales Young Nationals, and members of the far-right men's group, the Lads Society. One of the page's administrators is the same person who set up the New Guard. Soon after Senator Anning's maiden speech, the Melbourne leader of the Lads Society posted this to Facebook.
We must shill as hard as possible for this guy and show our support. It encourages more people to support. Never underestimate the power of confidence. Lemmings pick the winning side. It's an Anglo-European Australia. You're just living in it.
And with that, a baby boomer hotel owner from rural Queensland was transformed into an alt-right meme template made for the youth of the internet age. Anti-Semitic and anti-Islamic memes using Anning's face started appearing on the Fraser Anning Supporters Group Facebook page. One of the first to be posted is the iconic photograph of a dead 3-year-old refugee boy lying face down on a beach in the Mediterranean. In the foreground is a doctored image of Fraser Anning's face with glowing red eyes and the words "Final Solution" writ large. Elsewhere, his supporters rail against the global Jewish conspiracy and so-called African gangs. In January, 3 months after it was created, Fraser Anning himself posted a message to the page. It said, quote, "I'd like to personally thank all my supporters on this page. Australia needs Australians like you to make this country the great country it once was. Thank you, Fraser Anning." More recently, a bunch of Egg Boy and Christchurch-related memes and posts have appeared on the Anning supporters group. One depicts the Christchurch shooter as a kind of religious figure, while another alleges the whole massacre was a hoax. Another meme depicts Fraser Anning as a Nazi soldier about to pull the switch on Egg Boy in a gas chamber.
I think Fraser Anning is considered a comrade.
Andy Fleming is a keen watcher of the Australian far right.
And so for those who are members of this movement, they look to Anning and they know that he's our guy.
He's been cataloguing their movements for 15 years via his blog Slack Bastard. And some people don't like that, do they?
No. In fact, they hate it. And they wish that I was dead.
As a result, he's had to take steps to conceal his identity. Maybe I'll send him a text. Just let him know we're here. Alright, no news yet, but he should be here soon. Last time we met, it was coordinated on an encrypted messaging app, and we met in a public park, shifting locations when passers-by got too close.
Up this way?
Yeah, sure.
That's
yeah,
okay.
Good idea. Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I have to be extremely careful.
Andy Fleming says Andrew Wilson and his associates have been looking for a political home for years. Their support for Fraser Anning is a way of accessing power.
So I think it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. The so-called alt-right activists look to Anning for inspiration and for resources.
Here endeth part 2.